Good afternoon, listeners. This is Imad Kasir, your RJ from the show Mind and Muse from Planet FM 87.6. And every Saturday and Sunday, we dive deep into the world of rich literature, arts, mind sciences, and much more. You can catch us live on www.radio.gov.pk/live-streaming. And today we are diving deep into the complex world of human relationships and personal growth with two thought-provoking books that will make you think differently about yourself and those around you. By the way, have you ever struggled with self-doubt or felt like your ego is holding you back? Or perhaps you have encountered someone in your life who's a bit too full of themselves, leaving you feeling drained and frustrated. We'll be discussing two wonderful books. The first one is Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday, and it's a powerful exploration of how our egos can both fuel our success and hold us back from reaching our true potential. And the other book is Surrounded by Narcissists. It is written by Thomas Erikson, and it's a lovely book. It offers a timely guide on how to navigate relationships with people who are more concerned with themselves than with the genuine connections. So we will be discussing these two books. One is how to have a connection with your own ego, because as the title suggests that ego is the enemy, and this is the enemy within, not outside. And the other book will tell us how to deal with the outer world, especially with the narcissists, which we find everywhere. So listeners, stay tuned, and I'll join you right after this lovely track. Welcome back to Mind and Muse. This was such a lovely music, one of my favorite. Yes, this was the love theme from Romeo and Juliet. Listeners, you are tuned to Mind and Muse, FM 87.6, and today we are discussing two wonderful books. Before the break, we discussed Ego is the Enemy, and now the other book, Surrounded by Narcissists. So I'll be sharing a little about the author of this lovely book. He is Thomas Erikson, a Swedish author and organizational psychologist, known for his insightful writings on human behavior, leadership, and also relationships. And his bestseller books include Surrounded by Idiots in 2014. And this book basically explores the four main personality types, and then followed by another book, Surrounded by Psychopaths, in 2017. And this book basically examines how to navigate toxic relationships. And then his other book, Don't Shout Until You Have Left the Room, in 2021, a book that offers advice on navigating difficult workplace relationships. And what I have selected for today's show is his one of his finest books. This is Surrounded by Narcissists. This was written in 2020, a book that provides strategies for dealing with narcissistic personalities. And so let's start about this book. As I just mentioned that before the break, we discussed Ego is the Enemy. That was something within us. That was ego was an enemy that was within us, enemy within, and we had to focus on that. We discussed how can we overcome. And now in this book, this is something related to our outer world and how we relate to others, especially those who come with narcissistic traits. So Erikson, the author, he in the start he basically distinguishes between clinical narcissistic personality disorder, NPD, narcissistic personality disorder, which is a rare condition and that can be diagnosed. And the other condition is everyday narcissism. That is a spectrum of traits like self-absorption, manipulation, inflated self-importance. So this is he starts with this, that he differentiates in these two, and the chapters of the books, the chapter of this book are basically he has divided into parts. Narcissism, a brief introduction, that is the first part. Then he discusses narcissism in depth look, that is the second part. And then in the third part he tells us how to handle narcissists, and in fourth and last part of the book he tells us about the narcissistic culture. So we will be discussing the main concepts discussed in this book. And this book is also, as I mentioned, this is one of the most read book since it is published, and it has been translated into many languages also. And basically Thomas Erikson, he is not asking us to diagnose people harshly. He only wants us to recognize patterns so we can protect ourselves. It's all about how intelligent we are emotionally. And that is where this thing comes into play, that in the first book that we discussed, in that it was all about ourselves, our behaviors, our patterns, our lens, how we see the world through our lens. And it was all about our own mindset, the way how we look at things. It was basically focused on that. But in this book, this surrounded by narcissists, the author tells us that we should only be able to recognize patterns of others, and then we should respond accordingly. This is the whole concept of this book, that whenever you come across a narcissist, may it be in a workplace, may it be at home, may it be anywhere else. So what are the ways to first recognize that he or she, that they are narcissists, and then we should know the strategies, we should know the ways how to respond accordingly. So we cannot reliably change a narcissist by force. Instead, we learn strategies for interacting. This is the basic concept, and Erikson lays out several chapters on how to recognize, respond, and resist a narcissist. So, recognizing narcissist behavior, the traits of a narcissist are the major traits as discussed in this book are grandiosity, entitlement, exploiting others, lack of empathy, oversensitivity to criticism, also tactics, gaslighting, that is twisting facts, and love bombing, initial charm, devaluation, sudden criticism. So these are the things that if you come across any such trait, so you must get alert that you should now you should start behaving differently if you weren't behaving the way you needed to. So if you feel such behaviors in someone, you must recognize that you are dealing with a narcissist, and There are ways to deal with them, and that is what we are told in this book by Erikson. And the strategies he tells us are that the first strategy and the most effective strategy is that we should set boundaries. Setting boundaries is always important. If you don't set your boundaries, you will be always prone to such kind of people who will be manipulating, who will deceive, and defeat. Maybe if you don't follow the true, if you don't follow the what you need to follow, and if you are overwhelmed by whatever they say, you may are at the verge of losing something, anything that could be a relationship, that could be a success, that could be merely anything. So the first thing is that setting boundaries and avoid emotional over-engagement. This is another strategy that you need to follow while dealing with narcissistic people. And don't play their games. Assertiveness plus clarity over emotional pleading. So these are important areas that you shouldn't be playing their games. You shouldn't be, as I mentioned, overwhelmed by them. You should always be clear. You should avoid emotional over-engagement, because these narcissist people, they are very clever in manipulating you, and they come in different patterns, in different ways, and they are able to pick your weakness, and they will simply, as they say, that they will attack you on your weak area. So this is how you can recognize narcissistic behavior, and then you deal with them accordingly. So the first chapter tells you that you should be able to recognize narcissistic behavior. The second part, the next chapter tells you ways to deal narcissistic people, and then in the next chapter Erikson tells us how to protect ourselves from narcissistic abuse. And Erikson describes how patterns repeat, how you may be trapped emotionally, and how to disengage when necessary. He encourages selective engagement, breaking contact if needed. So, listeners, these are important points to focus on, that selective engagement, whenever necessary, you should engage with a narcissist if it is inevitable and you have to deal with narcissists. So you should focus on selective engagement, and you should also be able to break contact if needed. This part sounds a bit difficult to apply, but this is something that we should know first, and then we should also keep this in our minds, that if required, if needed, we should be able to break contact, because at the end of the day, our personal and our emotional well-being should be the focus, and it should be the foremost priority for our own selves, rather than be manipulated by narcissistic people. And then in the next chapter, Erikson tells us what do narcissists want, and he lists narcissists' core desires, and the narcissist's core desires are control, admiration, and sympathy, victim role, status, service, being fed by others, and submission from others. They want others as tools for their ego. So this was something that was discussed in the previous book also, Ego is the Enemy, and now in this book also, Erikson lists these core. Whenever such things come into play, whenever you see any person behaving in this particular manner, you should be aware that he is a narcissist, and you should now set your boundaries. You should limit your interaction, and you should be focused more on your own emotional well-being rather than by the manipulative strategies used by the narcissist people. And then he discusses control of narrative. This is what we usually see in the narcissist's behavior, that they often recast themselves as victims. They project blame onto others. They twist stories to preserve self-image, and they rarely admit their own weaknesses. So you should always be aware that if you come across such people who have these traits that I just mentioned, you should be clear that they are narcissistic people. And as the title of this book suggests us that we are surrounded by narcissists. So we are always surrounded by narcissists who want to take control of our stuff also, and they always manipulate. They always use others for their personal success, for their image building, for whatever they want, and the other people simply don't exist for them, for these narcissistic people. So, as in the first chapter, Erikson tells us that it is something, this behavior, you cannot change this behavior of others. The only thing is that how can you respond to such behavior. You shouldn't be manipulated. You should be aware. You should be alert. You must label them first that they are narcissists, and then you should apply the strategies that suits you the most, or that is maybe feasible, and that any specific circumstances, whatever suits you in any circumstances, you can apply that strategy. As mentioned in this book, that you can have many strategies. You can simply limit your interaction, or you can even break that interaction, that relationship, whatever it is. You can, if you are in a discussion in a meeting, you can leave that place, and that is not defeat. That is as they say, that losing an argument is better than losing a situation. So you may leave that place for a while, and then you can, in that way, you can stop these narcissists take advantage of your innocence, or maybe that they think that you don't know about them. So then he tells us definitions and keywords that we should be aware of. And in the start, as I discussed this concept of gaslighting. Gaslighting is basically intentionally manipulating someone to doubt their memory or perceptions. So there are movies on this concept also, gaslighting. In 1930s, there is a movie on this concept with the same name, and there are other books also on this wonderful concept. This wonderful in a way that we should know that what can people do to us. That is, of course, that is something negative, and we shouldn't be doing it. But we should know that we can face gaslighting by others, and so that is why I was referring it to this concept, that it is something intentionally manipulating. Like, for instance, you had a cup of tea with someone, and the next morning that person tells you that you haven't seen him for a while, and when you tell him that you had a cup of tea with him, and he will say no, it didn't happen, and maybe you are wrong because last evening I wasn't here, I was out of town. So this is a simple example that he will say this with so much surety and with so much certainty that you will start doubting your own memory, your own perception about yourself. And this was a very sort of small example, but gaslighting, and if it is done by more than one people or a group of people to deceive someone, some particular person, so that can be fatal also. So this is something very dangerous in a way. So gaslighting is, one should be aware that narcissists have this gaslighting. This concept of gaslighting is there with the narcissist, and they keep on using this gaslighting. And then triangulation is another concept discussed in this book by Erikson, Thomas Erikson. He tells that bringing a third party into conflicts to manipulate dynamics, pitting people. So this is another stuff, how they manipulate. And then love bombing, that overwhelming someone with praise and attention early to create a bond. So we see such things in our daily lives, that people tend to praise others to get something, and we see such things in workplace, in office cultures also, and in businesses, where we see that someone with this praise of others and to get something done. So this is also something narcissists do. And then devaluation, that is sudden shift from praise to criticism or withdrawal. So they put you on a pedestal, and then they simply start criticizing you or withdrawal. So you find yourself in some sort of a confusion. So that is also something that is a tool used by them effectively to manipulate things. And then the next concept he discusses is projection. Projection is attributing one's own flaws or intentions onto someone else. Listeners, we come across such things very often, that someone puts the blame of their failure onto others. So that is a very common observation. And this is, again, if we come across any such persons, any such circumstances where we see people doing this, so we should straight away know that we are dealing with a narcissist. And then the next is boundary. Boundary is a limit you set on what behavior you accept from others. So these are key concepts, which are definitions and key words which are clarified in this book, that we should be aware of these concepts, these tools which can be used by the narcissists to manipulate any situation or to get the desired results from you and to defeat you or deceive you. So listeners, have you ever been charmed then hurt by someone who later made you doubt your own memory or sanity? I think you should think, and I'm sure that most of you must have experienced any such situation in your lives where you have to deal with narcissists. As the book title says, that surrounded by narcissists. So we are surrounded by such people most of our lives. So in the next part, in the next chapter, Erikson tells us how to handle narcissists and show rap. So that is, they tells us that first of all, Narcissists test boundaries repeatedly, so you must be consistent. If you say no, you should mean it. If you should be firm, you should be strong enough to follow whatever you have said. So if you have said no to someone, and you must be polite enough, you shouldn't be behaving in a bad manner. You should always be very polite, courteous, but you should know your boundaries simultaneously, and this is something that comes through practice. So if you say no, you should mean it. So set firm boundaries and and enforce them. Strategies to protect that you should set boundaries and then enforce them. Then he tells us about grey rock technique. This is a technique he has discussed, and he says that when they try to bait or provoke you, you should respond blandly, unemotionally. Be a grey rock and don't feed drama. This is really a very recommended tool because they play with your emotions, and you should remain calm, cool, and as he has referred this to grey rock, that you shouldn't be affected by their tools, by their manipulative talk, and so you should be emotionally intelligent, that someone is playing you, and someone is trying to fool you, and someone is trying to manipulate you, and someone is using their narcissistic behavior and their narcissistic approach onto you. You should be aware, and you should be not driven by their drama. So you should act like a grey rock. And then the next strategy is pause or walk away. Selective engagement. As I discussed in the start also, that narcissists will guilt trip you. They'll question you, and they'll when conversation starts spinning or manipulation begins, you should pause, you should step back, or you should disengage. Don't get drawn into their battles. They'll always try to put you in that battle. They'll always try to put you into the areas in which you are weaker, and wherever you lose control, wherever you lose your emotional intelligence, they'll start manipulating you, and that is where they are in the control of your situation. Until you are out of control, until you are out of your emotional balance, you are in control of your situation. And as we keep on discussing, that you can only control your own response, you can only control your reaction, and you cannot control the other. So the only thing is that you should know where to pause, where to step back, or where to disengage. You can simply take some time. You can, if on the phone, you can simply get some time. You can in a discussion, you can simply disengage, you can step back, you can go out of that room. And as I mentioned earlier, that if it is on the cost of your emotional well-being, that is perfectly fine. And if someone is manipulating you, and if someone is showing their narcissistic behavior, and you have identified it, then it's better to set your boundaries and act accordingly. And then the next chapter, he tells us that don't over-explain and don't take it personally. And narcissists, they will guilt trip you, and then you should not over justify your decisions. Use factful, unemotional statements. Don't internalize their blame. That is their tool, that is the way they attack on you. So if you internalize, if someone is if someone tells you of being guilty of something, and if they tell you that you haven't done the right thing, or you have done something wrong, or you have made a mistake, so do not over explain, don't over justify, because that might be their trap, that might be their narcissistic trap to manipulate you. So you should again be confident enough, you should be aware of whatever you have done, and if necessary you can simply justify, or you can remain factful. But Erikson tells us that we should not over justify. Justification is perfectly fine, but over justification isn't fine. So we should draw a line between justification and over justification, and we should make statements which are unemotional, which should be based on facts rather than on emotions. And then in the last, he tells us when to cut ties. Sometimes relationships are too toxic. We see unfortunate and unhealthy relationships in families, partners, with boss, everywhere. So Erikson suggests that cutting contact may be necessary to preserve your well-being. And as I mentioned earlier, that your own emotional well-being should be the priority for yourself. Others in your lives are important, but not on the cost of your own well-being. You should be your priority. You should focus on your life first. And as they announce in planes, that before helping others, you should help yourself first in taking that oxygen mask. So this is always important, that you should first focus on your own well-being, your own priorities, your own goals, and then only you should focus on others. So if necessary, you always have this option of going away, or of cutting the contact whenever it is too toxic to continue. So you should also be aware of that. And cultivating humility is the last point that is discussed in this book. And one of Erikson's antidotes is humility, and he focuses that seeing others as human, not instruments, and resisting the cultural pull of narcissism. So this also resonates with the Holidays first book that we discussed in the first half, Ego is the Enemy. This also resonates with that book also, that we should see others as humans. We should know that they also have a mind also, and they can also think, and they shouldn't be manipulated. So this is how we can tackle narcissistic people. And so before we close, I'd be sharing my final thoughts on these two books, and I want that this should be the takeaways of our today's discussion on these two wonderful books, Ego is the Enemy and Surrounded by Narcissists. That ego is not just arrogance, it's subtle, it can be what whispers, and you deserve this, you are entitled, but you are better than them, recognize it. And narcissism is partly about stories, the stories others tell, the stories they force on you. You get to choose your own story. And then boundaries are a lifeline, and setting boundaries is always important, and once we set boundaries, we need to defend them as well. And humility is a bridge to others, to reality, and to resilience. And this is something we should always be focused on. And I want to leave you with a quote from Holiday, that your ego is not some power you are forced at every turn. It can be managed. It can be directed. And from Erikson work, I can tell you that we can't always change others, but we can always change how we respond. And sometimes that's enough to reclaim peace. So listeners, this was all about these two books. We discussed Ego is the Enemy and Surrounded by Narcissists. I hope you have enjoyed the show, and this is me, Imad Kasir, from Mind and Muse, Planet FM 87.6, the only English FM of Radio Pakistan, Islamabad. And this is me signing off until next time. Allah Hafiz.